Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Business Ninjas. This is Kelsey here today with Jaime Nakesh. He's the founder and CEO at Virtual Latinos. Jaime, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kelsey, for having me on the show.
Absolutely. So Jaime, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, first of all, I consider myself to be an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working and trying to do my own businesses for quite a while now. And this is now something that I really enjoy doing in terms of personally as an entrepreneur, the latest business that I'm working on. But yeah, in terms of more about me, I love technology. I love family time. I think of myself as a person who's like techie, into automation, into all things digital. And yeah, I mean, I really love to work in lots of different types of things when it comes to business.
Yeah.
And when it comes to personal life, I'll repeat that. Yeah, I'm a big person that really loves to spend time with family, and actually having our parents and family close to me and my wife is important.
I love that. I love that. So it sounds like you've had many kind of different ventures, well-rounded. Talk to me a little bit about how Virtual Latinos got started.
Sure. So Virtual Latinos is a project that got started kind of just to see if it would be possible to hire virtual marketers initially from Latin America, because I was not trying to start a business. I was trying to simply, truly just kind of replace my US-based San Diego marketing team, because I am a marketer, which I guess definitely I forgot to mention earlier. So I've been doing digital marketing for about 20 years, and my first company, which is still the legal entity that manages Virtual Latinos, is a marketing agency called Bluminati. And so I was working with a team that was all US based here in California and San Diego. And it came a time for me to decide, in order to be able to make a living and actually grow a family, I needed to get more income. And to do that, I had to obviously make more money, whether that was getting more clients or increasing the profit margins. And in that case, whether it's by getting more projects or making more per project, right? So I decided to not raise my pricing, but instead went the other route and wanted to lower my cost. And the reason being, I've been working for small businesses for a really long time, and so keeping prices affordable was important to me to be able to really help the people I wanted to help. Even though I knew that I could just raise prices like most agencies have, and still be able to be in the market, but I didn't want to go that route, at least initially, for quite some time. So by trying to cut my costs, I realized the opportunity to hire remote workers, in this case virtual assistants from the Philippines, because I read a book that I basically learned all about what it means, and I had zero clue how you would work with somebody in the Philippines. But read the book, figured it out, spent lots and lots of time learning through that process. And the reality is that, let's just say, to keep it short, it wasn't so successful. I wasn't so happy with my experiences doing all the recruitment on my own and hiring people and having to do it all on my own, which really led me to where we are today. So basically realized that after some time of working with the Filipinos, wasn't going to work for me, even though thousands and thousands of companies do. And, I'm sure there's lots of great people there. But I live in San Diego. Next to the border is Mexico, like a 20-minute drive from downtown. And I am from Mexico City and born in Mexico myself. So I'm like, why can't we just find some Mexicans? So I tried, and there weren't. In Tijuana, at least, there was no marketers, which is what I was looking for. And the people who know Tijuana told me, listen, in Tijuana, you're not really going to find marketers. You might find designers, programmers, a bunch of other people, but marketers with US-based marketing experience, doubtful. So I couldn't, and I ended up hiring a graphic designer. I taught her how to be a digital marketer, but then she also quit on me after a year because she got a better job somewhere, like a big corporate company. And that's really how the project started. I'm like, well, I don't want to go through the Philippines anymore. I went through Upwork and Fiverr, and at the time it wasn't what I was looking for. And I did some research online to not try to build the business, but to try to just find assistants in Latin America. I mean, now I don't even know why I didn't start with that route. I just said, well, the book says go to the Philippines. I Googled a little bit and looked like everybody was in the Philippines, so I didn't think twice.
Yeah.
But then eventually I did, and I realized there wasn't a company that would offer what I was needing except a single company in El Salvador. So I'm like, well, that sucks for me because that means I can't get what I need quickly, but maybe it's also an opportunity to basically start this company.
Yeah, so it sounds like you kind of forged your way through a path that was normally headed different directions that you
Yeah,
said, to source relatively, near and dear to you, but
yeah.
close as well.
Correct. And so I started just focusing on virtual marketers because that's
Hmm.
what I needed for my marketing agency.
Hmm.
But then let's say pretty quickly people were like, well, that sounds cool, but I need more than just a marketer. I also need an admin assistant and I need
Yep.
some bookkeeping. And then the business evolved into being able to offer lots of different professionals, which is something we're changing. And instead of calling them virtual assistants, we call them virtual professionals because they really are just
Hmm.
virtual professionals, not just assistants.
I love that. So talk to me a little bit more about, the different services that virtual Latinos can offer, talking about these virtual professionals. What does that look like? What are some examples?
Sure. The most common, let's say, types of jobs are within marketing,
Hmm.
sales, customer support, and admin.
Okay.
So that's probably the bulk of the types of jobs. So that includes, digital marketers, sales representatives, customer support agents, either for tech support or customer service or sales. Within marketing and digital marketing, there's a lot of different specialties. And in terms of administrative work, there's executive assistants, regular admin assistants, operations managers, which is not really just admin assistants, but yeah, we got a lot of different types of roles. So most businesses come to us when they want to get help in all types or areas of their services, except let's say the technology specific roles, such as programming and programmers and software design. That's the only thing we don't really have.
Okay. Okay. Tell me a little bit about the process for getting, say a company is listening to this or a certain individual, how would you begin to get involved or reach out to Virtual Latinos?
Sure. So most people come to us through our website.
Mhm.
We do advertise as well, but most people organically find us. And so on our website, like the first step is like register as a business. So people usually just fill out a form. They give us their information. We ask, very few questions, and
Mhm.
then we kind of get started by contacting them, and we tell them, how do you want to talk with our team? Would you rather book a call or would you rather call us? So eventually we book a call for 15 minutes. It's kind of a small or short consultation to figure out for them whether we're a good fit, and for us if they're a good fit. And so during that 15-minute call, we kind of explain to clients how Virtual Latinos works, talk
Mhm.
about different types of roles, different pricing, and then we actually walk them through our entire hiring process, which is quite long. And then we later share with them a PDF of what we call the client hiring roadmap.
Okay.
It's a PDF that really explains step by step exactly how the process works so that they can later just literally go back through the little, let's say, brochure and
Yeah.
go through the steps. But the steps, even though we explain them in detail, it's mostly after that 15-minute call. If people want to work with us, they schedule a separate call that we call a client interview.
Mhm.
It's a 45-minute to 60-minute interview where we interview the client first to make sure we understand who they are, what they need, what role they're really looking for, to really understand the role, because we're more like a really in-house recruitment agency. We
Mhm.
really do a lot of work compared to a typical VA company.
Yeah.
And after that, we take 7 to 10 business days for going into our community, looking at the pre-vetted assistants that we have already vetted, which represents 5% of the people who initially applied to our community. And then we actually, out of all the candidates for each specific job, we interview on average 7 or 8 of them,
Mhm.
one on one, at least 30 minutes on Zoom.
Mhm.
For each client. So even if somebody applied for a different role, we interview them again depending on each
Yeah.
different role, and then we basically pick the best 3 to 4 candidates, and then we send the client an email with the candidates all in a very standardized format.
Mhm.
And
Interesting.
then they get to interview them. They interview at least two, and then they get to hire them.
Oh,
And
okay. So
there's more, but I'm not going to go into more boring details.
no, I think that's something that differentiates you from your competition. It sounds like that your client is able to interview and select kind of like the best of the best of the best.
Yeah, we basically save people time. And the reason I created this process is because initially the business was actually a job portal, like a directory where you would just post a job and people would uh, get people to apply to their job, and then they would
Yeah.
do all the work. Because it's the same thing I did in the Philippines. But then I ended up spending more time getting people to help them in figuring out how to write a job post, how to interview people.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then I'm like, okay, this is clearly not going to be good for them. It's not going to be enough income for me by charging just a one-time $50 fee for
Yeah.
posting a job. So then we changed the model to being a full done for you service where we do the entire recruitment for clients and pick only the best candidates.
Yeah. So what are your typical kind of client profiles? Is there a specific type of business that tends to work best with you? Kind of talk to me a little bit about that.
Sure. The first answer is we work with lots of different clients,
Hmm.
both sizes and industries. So we do still currently work with people that are just like a solopreneur, a one-man company, all the way to big companies with hundreds of employees. But the most, I'll start, I guess, by talking about the industries, and then I'll talk about the sizes. So our biggest industry we work with, which represents about 20% of our clients, are lawyers. So we work with a lot of lawyers. The next biggest industry is healthcare. So we work with a lot of people in healthcare. But combined between healthcare and lawyers, maybe make up about 30% of our clients. So
Hmm.
the other 70% are literally spread across lots of different industries: software, retail, e-commerce, manufacturing, personal services, other types of financial and accounting services, like a whole range of industries. But in terms of company sizes, the most typical clients today are those that are, let's say, they have at least some type of management team. They're not anymore typically a solopreneur. They usually have at least some type of team, let's say, between 3 to 5 people, usually at the least, or more, or a lot more, depends on the business.
Hmm.
So even though we still are working directly with the entrepreneurs who are sometimes the business owners,
Hmm.
more and more often we're not.
Okay.
So we're still helping the small business owners which have a team, but we're also sometimes working directly with their team. So maybe the initial call is with the founder and the CEO, but then when we start the recruitment process, we start working either with their HR department or with their operations department or whoever's in charge of growing their team.
Okay. Okay. Is it more of a contract base? Like, talk to me a little bit about, how you generate revenue and what that looks like.
Yeah, so we actually specifically chose to focus on long-term commitment from both sides, the virtual professionals and the clients.
Okay.
So as opposed to, for example, Fiverr or Upwork, which are usually, at least most typically, project-based, where you post a project, they quote your project, and then you're done.
Mhm.
We're not. So anybody that comes to us and they're like, hey, I just need a website done, or I just need a marketing campaign for, I don't know, 6 months, or whatever the project might be, we
Yeah.
basically say we cannot help you. If you're looking to really actually add people to your team and actually make them part of your team, and not just think of them as someone you're outsourcing maybe your boring or time consuming tasks to,
Right.
then we take you in. So I would say the great majority of our clients truly feel and consider and treat our virtual professionals as part of their team. I mean, not only do they have an email from our client's company, but they are part of the entire team. They meet the rest of the potentially US based team.
Hmm.
When it comes to perks, which are not technically considered benefits because they're not employees or contractors, but they get whether that's vacation time or bonuses. A good portion of our clients treat everybody the same, right? Which is really good. So yeah, when people want to add people to their team to grow their entire team, whether it's a hybrid US and outsourced team or just outsourced team, then we can bring them on.
Yeah. So what are some of the ways you retain your talent in your virtual professionals?
Great question. So yeah, retention is an important part, especially after COVID,
Hmm.
both for good and for bad. Lots of people were willing to work online, and they had to basically, right? So in Latin America, it's not that common for people to work remote
Mm-hmm.
jobs at all.
Mm-hmm.
So of course now those who could were forced to, and now they got used to it, and
Mm-hmm.
they said, "Wow, this is great." So more and more people are now applying to work with us
Mm-hmm.
because they like the whole idea and huge benefits of working remotely. But
Yeah.
it was definitely not typical in Latin America, and it's still not typical. Like as soon as sort of COVID, didn't end, but ended, let's say in March, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
companies, at least let's say in Mexico, where I have a lot of friends and family, like you got to go back to the office because that's how very old school.
Yeah.
Um, so to retain talent, not only are we paying people very well and making a small commission, which is how we make money, we quote our clients whatever we're going to quote them, and we don't charge any setup fees or startup fees or recruitment fees. We make a small commission out of the hourly rate, but we pay most of it to the assistants. And so we chose to pay ourselves the small portion
Mm-hmm.
of what we charge on purpose. We want the assistant to make the most because we know that if they're going to be making good money, they're going to much more likely stay for the long term. They're going to be happy with their clients. The clients are going to be happy with them. So, paying them very well is important. And the reason I tell you this is because many clients do come from us working from other agencies, whether in the Philippines or elsewhere, where it's kind of the opposite. Like the company makes the biggest cut and the assistants get paid the least in terms of the percentage.
Yeah.
And then the assistants are not that happy. And of course, the agency is making all these profits. And then when clients do find out, if they find out, they're not happy. And then because either the assistant wants to quit because they're not getting paid good, or simply, the client doesn't feel happy about it, and they want to find another company that pays people differently. So we actually charge, even though we don't publicly say it, the fee that we take is dollar based, not percentage based. So whether you're hiring somebody at $8 an hour or $15 an hour, we make the same dollar commission.
Yeah.
And that's on purpose so that first people know that we're not incentivized to try to sell you or offer you a more expensive assistant. If the assistant's more expensive, it's because they're more experienced. And so, yeah, we're basically here for the long term to make sure that people are going to be happy. Now, other than that, the money situation, we have a lot of things in place to basically try to encourage both clients and VAs to stick around for the long term, right? Now, the first most important part is we have a customer success team. It's going to be close to 10 or 12 people now because we're hiring a lot. And it's like an account manager who's in charge of making sure that the client and the VA are both happy in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So we initially do an onboarding with both people at the same time to make sure they know how to work together and be happy in terms of communication, expectations,
Mm-hmm.
using software, blah, blah, blah. But then we check in separately, both with the client and the assistant. So after like 2 weeks, then after 6 weeks, then after like 12 weeks, when we're asking them separately, like, how are you doing? Are you happy with your client?
Yeah.
Because we don't want to just make the client happy. We want to make both sides happy.
Right.
So that, and now we're trying to, by the end of this year, come up with some type of like perks plans that are going to be optional. Like clients don't have to legally pay them, but it's going to be optional for clients to basically give people extra perks so that they are making more money or they're having extra flexibility for things to want to choose to stay and not be looking for other jobs elsewhere.
Yeah, it sounds like every aspect of the company is so thoughtfully completed, really with like employee centric, with all that you are doing to ensure that you're retaining, finding good talent. I think it's really interesting, how passionate and how thoughtful you've been with developing the company.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's definitely been very, I think, thought out. The main reason I'm a really picky guy in life in general, especially when it comes to business. My friends tend to tell me that I'm a complicated client because, I mean, personally, I try to be a perfectionist, which is definitely not good many times. But yeah, I really wanted to make sure that when I hired the Filipinos, I was going to get the best possible, which is why it took way too long to find them. But I kind of just created my own process to vet people a lot to make sure it's the best possible people. We kind of make it a little harder and a little harder as time goes by and based on some feedback. But yeah, that's the reason. I have zero background in recruitment, zero background in HR, but I like to basically be picky in the process. So that's kind of the reason that
Yeah.
things work out well. Right now,
Yeah.
I'll tell you that many VA companies, if you talk to them after 15 minutes, in like 1 or 2 days, they'll just send you a bunch of profiles. Like, yeah, here we have a bunch. We take at least 7 to 10 business days, so between a week and a half to 2 weeks, and that's on purpose. We want
Yeah.
to do it right.
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting that you do take that time, and you are thoughtful, like I said, in that process. And it sounds like you really know people. Like you can't really learn people. You can learn recruiting and you can learn marketing, to an extent, but it sounds like you truly know people.
I don't know if I truly know, of course, everybody, but we definitely try to get them as get to know them as much as possible. So, I
Yeah.
mean, these days we have a team that's the recruitment team that does all of the recruitment on behalf of our clients. Then we
Hmm.
separately have an applications team that
Hmm.
accepts and reviews all the candidates. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've tried to teach my team with time how to pick the best people and how to ask the right questions to get to know them.
Hmm.
Now we also do sometimes special little quizzes or small tasks as
Hmm.
part of the hiring process to make sure they're the right fit. But
Hmm.
many times, or at least initially, now it's harder and harder as we grow. But many of the people that I hired for my team internally, I hired them just out of my gut feeling after
Yep.
interviewing them. Like, that person seems to have like a really good personality. It looks like they might be able to have that type of, you know, what's it called, hunger for growing, for
Yep.
learning, and that
That
sometimes is a
drive.
lot more value. Yeah, that drive, exactly. That's the word I was looking for. Much more important than having the actual skills I need, right?
Hmm.
And I have like 2 or 3 examples of people that I hired without ever posting like an actual job description
Yeah.
or doing like anything, just very structured. I just looked at their information. I like them. I spoke to them. I'm like, you have the right attitude. I want you in the team. I don't really even have a job for you in mind, but tell me what you can do. And, we added them. I
Yeah.
mean, now we don't do that anymore because we're like a bigger team, but
Yeah.
that's definitely how we started.
No, I love that. I love that. That's fantastic. Well, Jaime, is there anything else you would want our listeners to know either about Virtual Latinos or, the industry and recruiting, anything like that?
Sure. So, in general, for those who either have worked with VAs in the Philippines or uh, anywhere else, I think that one thing for them that they should know, to be very open, is that the talent in Latin America is great,
Hmm.
and this is the reason why lots of people are hiring and being open to hiring in Latin America. But it's different.
Hmm.
Okay, uh, the people in the Philippines have been working, let's say, in the outsourcing, let's call it, industry for decades, at least as virtual assistants. Even though in Latin America there's been already lots of years of people also working at call centers, which are sort of similar but not really.
Hmm.
It's a very different type of personality, and usually the things that get outsourced to call centers is like tech support or sales.
Hmm.
But it's different than what usually virtual assistants or virtual professionals do.
Hmm.
So what I'm trying to really get at is that there's many skills that Filipinos do have, for example, such as e-commerce based skills like Amazon, Shopify, or more technical things in digital marketing that a
Hmm.
lot of people as a whole in Latin America lack. So one of the biggest challenges for us, which we're working on, is creating the Virtual Latinos Academy, where we're going to be able to help virtual assistants or professionals in Latin America learn, hopefully, many of those skills to be more competitive in general in the market. So, if you're open to hiring people in Latin America, that's great. We'd love to. If you want to work with us, great. If you want to do it on your own, great too. Just know that people are different, different cultures, different experience.
That's fantastic. Well, Jaime, thanks for being on Business Ninjas. I think this was a great conversation talking about virtual professionals. I love that, rebranding, talking about how you find great talent, you retain great talent, and how you just find people with that drive, through a strong leadership style. So, Jaime,
Thank you.
thanks for being on Business Ninjas.
Thank you as well, Kelsey. It was a pleasure.